Welcome to the Inc. Productivity Tip of the Day. Today's tip. If you want to be more productive, science says stop setting so many darned deadlines. Time matters, especially since it's a non-renewable resource. Yet it's easy to fall into the trap of letting a task fill the time allotted to complete that task. Give me a week to finish a project. Especially when I was an employee, there was no real incentive to finish more quickly, and it will probably take me a week to finish that project. That's why setting reach deadlines can be effective. Then there's the "it will take as long as it takes" mindset. When I did wedding photography, I didn't set a deadline for how long it would take me to select and edit photos. My wife suggested I give myself a time limit, thinking I would be forced to find ways to speed up the process. I did, and it did. Setting a lot of deadlines, especially if you set tight deadlines, can definitely make you more productive. Or not. Imagine you have 10 tasks on your to-do list for today. You haven't just bulleted the tasks, you've also listed why each task is important, because a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that participants who spent a moment writing down why a particular task was important were much more successful than those who did not. And to keep yourself on track, you've given each task a time limit. 30 minutes to catch up on bookkeeping, 45 minutes to edit a pitch deck, 20 minutes to call 4 sales leads, 3 hours to keep plugging away on a chronic production bottleneck. Each task matters. Each task has value. But which tasks are you likely to work on first? Science says it will probably be the tasks with short time windows, because that makes them seem urgent. Research published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people tend to choose urgent tasks with short completion windows over important tasks with larger outcomes. Or, at the very least, to finish urgent tasks first, and then move on to more important tasks. Researchers call the phenomenon the mere urgency effect, performing unimportant tasks with objectively lower payoffs, instead of important tasks with objectively better payoffs. Because the unimportant tasks have spurious urgency, or an illusion of expiration. As the researchers write, people behave as if pursuing an urgent task has its own appeal, independent of its objective consequence. Or, in non-researcher speak, if a task needs to get done by noon today, even if noon is an arbitrary deadline, I'll work on that task. That's especially true if you tend to stay really busy. The study found that the more you have on your plate, and the more stressed you feel, which tend to go hand in hand, the more likely you are to fall prey to mere urgency effect. Especially, the researchers write, for those individuals who pay attention to time and are schedule-driven. In other words, you. Keep in mind, putting off something important in order to finish something urgent isn't necessarily a conscious decision. It's a basic psychological preference. Task urgency, imminent deadlines, or short windows for completion naturally creates discomfort. Completing the task and hitting the deadline eliminates that discomfort, even if the task was relatively meaningless and the deadline self-imposed. That's why checking tasks off to-do lists can be so fun. But that's also why to-do lists filled with tasks with short deadlines can distract you from what you really need to work on. The key is to stop allowing yourself to mistake urgency for importance. One way is to leave time out of your task prioritization process. Doing so is actually fairly easy. The study found that participants who were reminded of task payoffs at the moment of task choice were significantly more likely to work on high-value tasks. Another is to avoid the "let's start the day with a few quick wins" game. That chronic productivity bottleneck? Start with that when you get to work, because fixing that problem matters a lot more than completing any number of less important tasks with arbitrary deadlines. And then leave yourself a few windows to accomplish those less important tasks. I like to knock out urgent tasks while I eat, or near the end of the day. Whatever you choose, block out a window where you'll focus on tasks with short completion windows. That way you'll get some of those things done, and will feel less tempted to immediately relieve the discomfort a deadline naturally creates. Bottom line, think about what will make the biggest difference in your success, whether professional or personal, and then ask yourself whether something you feel, or arbitrarily decided, is urgent, is truly important. Chances are, it's not, which means it can definitely wait. That's it from Inc. This article was written by Jeff Hayden. We'll have more from Jeff on Friday, but you can also read more from him and other thought leaders and entrepreneurs at Inc.com. Check back weekday mornings at 6 a.m. Eastern for more tips from Inc.